0, 1. Let's get started.
We're doing this live and in action.
Hey there, everybody. Thank you for joining us today with L2 Hearts Podcast, your community podcast. I'm Liza, your host, and I'm here today with a special guest.
KUTZ by Mr. Don.
So excited to have you here, to have you share your story. And of course, because I shouted you on the previous episode with F&B Fades. And he happens to be so special to me because he is my son's barber, but also he's a mentor and he does a tremendous job in his community. So I'm super pumped to hear about you and everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Please share with us a little bit about yourself.
Been cutting over 20 years, and I started because I had a son at 16 years old. I had 4 brothers that didn't care how their hair looked. So to help my mother out, I started learning how to cut hair. Besides that, I couldn't afford to be paying for my haircut and my son's haircut. And I was young and I wanted him to look fly too. So I learned, picked up the clippers. I was first cutting with the adjustable clippers. I cut with it and I lined up with it and everything, and then I upgraded, getting trimmers gradually. So then years of that getting laughed at because I'm messing up hair. Now those people that laughed at me is online to get a haircut. So that inspired me to even go more, to be more passionate about it, because I always like the beginning and the end result.
That's amazing. I really am glad you were able to share that today. But I want to know more about like where you come from. Like where were you born and raised?
In Jamaica, Queens, and then my father was in the military, and he was stationed in Savannah, Georgia area. So we moved down there, stayed down there. You know, him and my mother separated, and my mother came back to New York when I was 13.
Wow.
And then it began my whole lifestyle from there. You know, hair cutting. And I always admire business owners, and I just didn't want to work for no one.
Yeah.
So I had to get to that point to be able to be where I'm at right now. So it took a long time and it took a lot of experience. So I don't want to do nothing different.
Yeah,
you
you love what you do.
Yeah, definitely.
And I can totally tell, like, you really have a passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, you know, not only growing a business, but also the community, like how you care for people, because I noticed that too.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't always be like this smooth sailing. You had some challenges. Tell me about that.
Well, my challenges is learning the proper format of cutting. I had a barber for years, and I would learn from him. I never told him I was, learning, because I didn't want him to start holding back, lessons. Yeah. So he would do that, the razor, the fade, and I always watch other barbers, because I used to go to a barber shop where Anthony Mason used to get his hair cut, Malik Sealy, and it's all in Queens, in Jamaica, Queens.
Wow.
It was a barbershop called KUTZ, very famous barbershop, a lot of celebs. So I used to learn from them, and then I can always see something and then I can do it, and then I add my own spice to it. So those are challenging, and being able to get clippers. I had to get money to work to buy clippers, so that was always a challenge, me being young, 16, 17. I had little challenges with raising my son, experiencing, dealing with things with the law, but I learned from it and moved on. That's the only challenge until I got to the point of owning a shop.
Mm-hmm.
But matter of fact, let me just back up. With going into a shop, I realized that other barbers, they hate a lot when they see a new face. They don't want to let them live. So I had to learn from me having a kid. I gotta grind and get clients, and if I'm gonna make money.
Wow, yeah, those are big challenges for sure.
Yeah.
And it sounds in between you had some personal challenges,
Mm-hmm.
but then this happens to be like an incentive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we learn about people who build in their community are off of other mentors, people who are fostering them.
Yeah.
And you being a 16-year-old entrepreneur, really, because you're building up a business, and it means a lot to you. It's breaking bread for you. You're earning money, but also it's more important about being challenged when there's other barbers in the neighborhood? Because I know I grew up in Brooklyn too. It was almost every spot there was a barber shop, and they didn't just go in there just for a haircut. There was like some therapy going on there too, right? And people just come in there to laugh and crack up, and there's a lot of guy stuff getting getting together. So I can totally envision like that happening in the 90s.
Yeah.
But you came up, you overcame those challenges. What kind of projects are you involved in now? What kind of advice can you give to somebody who's probably thinking about it?
So right now I'm involved with the KUTZ app. You see the hat. It's a barber app, only barber app that's owned by minorities, and they're fairly new. I want to say they've been in business for about 5 years so far, and they're making a huge impact across the states. While I was in barbering school and learning how to deal with the app and realizing that booking appointments is much more better than waiting on walk-ins.
Mm-hmm.
So, that I took a liking to that, and that's a big difference from being in New York to here, because in New York, it's constant flow of walk-ins, and you have your regular clients, but the flow of walk-ins was much greater than it is here. And the appointments, so with the KUTZ app, if somebody's looking for a barber, they could put in your current location, and then you'll come up.
Mm-hmm.
If you subscribe, you pay that monthly subscription, you'll come up. So with that, I became an ambassador. I got the hats, the sweatsuits, the Letterman jacket. I got a lot of stuff, and I would go out to do events like for the homeless. Mm-hmm. We did a back to school event with T Clouds and Sykes for the WNBA. That was a great opportunity. I took full advantage of that. Also, they had a panel. They want to take away financial aid from barbers, so they had a panel. The KUTZ is big with advocating for barbers.
Love it.
And it's a barber app. It's not a stylist app. I'm pretty sure in the future they probably add that feature. But this barber app is everything that a barber needs and that a barber wants, and it helps you grow, because as long as they're looking for a barber and they can search it, you'll come up. As long as you have the subscription, like I said. But they have a free version, but it don't come with as much as the
details.
Involved in that. And then there's a church that I do back to school every year, Liberation Church. I go there and give my time. And besides that, my wife has a consulting business, which I'm a senior advisor of program development business, as far as grant research, every level of nonprofit capacity and strategic planning, and we help build your nonprofit from A to Z. And it's a great opportunity doing that on the side, because she bit the entrepreneur bug, and she retired from her job, and she's been doing well ever since. So I should salute to my wife, Sean. Clear Vision Consulting Group. It's just a wave. Like, once you get that bug, you just keep going and find other ways.
That is amazing. You're also involved with many projects and people who are making a difference in their community, and I think that's the strongest piece too. Sometimes, of course, you have it all in you as an individual to make a difference, but then when you lock arms with people who are like-minded, community people who are thinking about not just the business but also the people that they're servicing in that business, taking time to go and give some time, like you said, with the Liberation Church. And F&B Phase was part of that, and that's what really, inspired me to kind of have this story with you, because people don't realize sometimes who does the work in the background. Like, some people are just so humble like yourself, they really don't want to speak about it. But it's really important to highlight who you are, because you make a difference in a child that sat on your chair, who then will, it'll make a ripple effect to then say, I could do this. Look at him. He looks kind of like me, and, we think alike, and, his job is challenging, but there's possibilities. Yeah. So, of course, we know that there's the app with, is it the KUTZ?
The KUTZ, yeah. Totally different. It was totally
but
different.
you made it, you sustained, and I'm really grateful to actually really have this time with you. You know you as a barber, of course, for my son, but then also to just see that my son's in touch with other men who are really showing him the way of how to live life. These core values to kind of say, you know what, we do have a business, but we definitely want to make a difference.
I look at Ruben as he's a piece of my son. My son was taken away in 2012. He was only 20 years old, and it was a big case that I was unaware, but because of the feds not wanting it to be leaked, the NYPD never knew. So for 6 years, I was wondering how did it happen. Then someone called me 3 in the morning and said, your son's name is the only person I know in this world, and Daily News was writing about it, and his name is in it. And I reached out to the writers, and then they put me in, with the right people, and then, they told me they had the person that did it. So we moved on from that, and the guy is doing time. But I made it my thing to reach out to all the 16-year-olds that welcome it. And he welcomed it, and I said, hey, he said he wanted to learn how to cut hair. I said, really? I said, I got you, don't worry about it. Because I do one-to-ones, I'm an instructor too. So, but I took it, it wasn't just a project for him, it's something I was involved emotionally with, because I like him. He's a cool kid, and he's the only 16-year-old, well, 17 now, that what he done, he's such a cool kid that any other 17-year-old that I'm cut and whatever, their mind is just elsewhere. And he has a plan, and he's trying to execute it. So everybody's a work in progress.
They are, but the idea behind the connection, and I'm really sorry to hear about your son, but I'm also glad that we go through these pains in life, right? And then they become purpose, right? And then you were able not to be bitter about the situation, but say, you know what, now I really want to put attention to young people. And I want to mentor them, and I want to give them some kind of strength, that maybe you kind of miss with the connection that you have with your own child, And my son also has his father who's very much involved, but you play a really important role in his life. You're non-biased, right? So you're not just telling him where he's like, oh, my father's talking to me. No, it's a friend. And then it's also a model figure, So that's something that no one gets trained to do. This is a heartfelt moment that you do, and that I find to be the most tremendous thing that makes a difference in our community. Especially, I have to make a mention with minorities. We see a lot of fostering through maybe one side of a culture, right? They have the resources, they have the men in their lives, they have it. And you actually are helping in areas that there's such a need with minorities, right? There's a lot of fatherless boys out there, unfortunately. And so you making the time to making a better effort, a lot of times I'm like, do you need to get paid for this?
Oh, no.
And you're like, no, I'm doing this. And I'm like, what's your personal gain,
It was
but
just
you really
to see
are doing it
him
with
not
your
on the
heart.
streets. Because I also have custody of my grandson. His father is not around.
Okay.
And I would say I'm a little hard on him, because he's gonna only learn this from me. So I told him, a lot of things I see with kids is they play the victim when they did something wrong. So I'm teaching him that before you leave this house, there's things that you need to learn. You have to realize that not only do you have to make sure you're smart, you have to have common sense. And to me, common sense,
and be streetwise.
You have to. Like with my son didn't see it coming. A guy across the street just shot him for an initiative for a game, and didn't expect what the outcome. He thought he would survive, but didn't know that my son passed away. So at this point, I was asking God, why him? My son had cancer at 16. He survived cancer, and then bottom line, I looked at it like God needed him back. So I looked at it like that, because we never know what tomorrow brings.
Absolutely.
So you have to understand that you cherish those loved ones or your friends, and then you never just pray that they make it home. And he was on his way to his mother's house, and it was a hard pill to swallow, but as years came, you know, his birthday and the day it happened, I celebrate that in silence with myself. So a lot of times, my experience, I tell people, you know, kids, like I have a picture of him with his obituary, and I show the kids that's in trouble. I said, look, my son was 20. Just understand that you have a great life right now.
Absolutely.
You know, anybody that has their mother and their father alive should cherish that. Both of my parents are still alive, thank God. But I have friends that I'm close with that neither one of their parents are alive.
Yeah,
for the world.
you appreciate them,
yeah,
for sure.
I do. You know.
And you see that sometimes it's the lack of in other homes, so you do appreciate that.
I take full
I mean,
advantage
listen, our parents, believe it or not, you know, they did the best they could with what they had, and they had less resources than us. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's hard to forgive, but then we also have to see that, you know. And the same with us as parents, right? We're not always the best parents, you know. We're learning along the way, especially being a young father, you know. Who gives you a rule book to kind of know what to do? So unfortunately, sometimes that is the effect, but you flipped the leaf on that. You actually took that in, again, you didn't, you know, sat in some pain and bitterness. You actually took, you know, the time to process that grief, which I'm sure you still are, but you made it into the lives of other people, you know. What touches me is the way he did that for my son, you know, and you didn't realize this maybe, but my son decided to cut hair in a time that he actually saw me go through chemotherapy. So he was my first barber, you know, in a sense, because he's the one who shaved off my hair before chemotherapy took it. You know, and he was really playing football at first, kind of, you know, but and you went at his games and cheering him on.
I asked him, I said, are you sure this is what you want to do? You're so great in football.
He's so good.
And,
but he's good. Honestly, you know, that kid, I mean, honestly, he's good at a lot of stuff.
Whatever he put his hands on.
He really is. He's smart, he's good, and I'm very grateful, but I think that a lot of it contributes to the people in his life, and that's you. And that's you, and I thank you for that. I thank you for hearing him probably in times that maybe his parents did not hear him, you know, and also like helping other kids see that, you know, choose your life the right way, you know, live on a path that is better for you. Like you say, you're 13 now, but you know, later on you got to think about your future and stuff like that. But I mean, you're not done with your job. You're still making a difference. You're still, you know, advocating for a lot of people. You're still, you know, reaching out to the community, helping others. Now tell us more about like, what are some like rewarding aspects that you get from this?
As far as Ruben, my reward is when I come in the shop, I see him cutting. My grandson, his grades, very, very smart kid. I just said you have to just stay consistent. That's what I'm trying to get him to do. And I
really admire like your mentorship, you know, your model in front of him, the voice and those golden nuggets that are in his ear that is really showing him. I mean, if you're doing that for my son, I can only imagine for all the other children that you have in your life that's in place of you. And yes, you do have a great reputation for sure. I mean, I've seen like pictures and photos and stuff like that. I have come into the shop and actually seen it. And you know, you have regulars. You have people who are really coming back and saying, I want to sit in your chair over and over again. And you know, I could talk to you all day long. I really feel like you have a tremendous story, and it's a good news that you're not done. You got more to give.
You have a story. I want to interview you on this show one time.
I'm gonna get interviewed for sure. I definitely do. But you know what? Again, two minds, you know, that think alike. Definitely trying to highlight people who are making a difference in their community, and it's definitely our community. It's not just, you know, we pass each other in the grocery store. These are people who are really sitting and taking time with your child in some way, shape, or form, and it makes a huge difference because it's that one thing that would have kept them from doing something bad in their life, right? It also sets them up for success. You know, think about a nice fresh haircut. You know, you're going to school, you're like, oh yeah, I feel good now, I feel clean, I feel whatever, ready, you know, and we don't realize those things that happen. But I mean, again, I could talk to you all day long. I think that you're a tremendous person besides being a barber.
People that are homeless on the street, you know, asking for change. What I do is if I'm close and they be on a little island thing, I give them a business card. I said, if you need a haircut for a job interview, I think that'd be better than giving you this temporary cash.
That's right. I know
So
that.
I do that, but that's the things that I do. I give back to it.
I
as
think
long as
that's
you come in.
amazing.
Yeah.
Because there's the concept of like teaching somebody how to fish and also giving them a fish.
Yeah.
And the moment that we think, we're just gonna give them something, they may not use it for the right thing. But if you can give them a haircut and they could be set up for an interview, that will trickle into them earning some kind of living, and that could change the course of their life. So keep doing it.
Yeah.
Don't get discouraged there. I'm sure up anyway because you're a good person.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we had this time today to really go into a deep story that is touching. It has so much depth. It has so much heart feels regarding the people around him.
I'm gonna tell you. Well, before I leave to go on vacation, I always bring it to notice, because with the app you could do a blast to all your clients in there, and I tell them I'm going on vacation, so I'm doing it. So sometimes I make those special out there to get them in there. I don't want them to feel like I left them hanging. So I say, just come through. If you answer, I send questions. If you can answer it in time, I get free cuts every once in a while. But you gotta earn it. You gotta know how to answer the question, have the right answer, and do it in a timely fashion.
Okay, kind of work for it.
Yeah, definitely.
And you deliver, because your stuff is fly anyway.
Thank you.
I am so super pumped and glad that we got to speak with you today.
Yeah.
And I feel like there should be a follow-up in some kind of way. We'll do it for sure. I know y'all be waiting for it. But tell us, where can we find you?
Well, you book me at www.KUTZ, KUTZ by MrDon.com. There you'll see my work, you'll see the prices, you'll see anything that you are inquiring about, and my phone number is listed on there in case you need to go in depth with talking to me, and only serious inquiries.
This is fly right here, because
you.
you just had like a new up, right?
So,
You
yeah,
leveled up to a new spot. And
bigger
it's
room,
looking so good so far. I love it.
Yeah. And I'm able to offer more services.
Okay, good.
So that's a definite upgrade for me. And
well, thank you so much for being here today. We've had a wonderful conversation, and there's still another portion that I want you to stick around for. Teach to teach, and you're gonna like this one. This is kind of fun. I hope at least we'll laugh a little bit. Thank you again. I am your hostess, Liza, and with us today,
cuts by Mr. Don.
So wonderful. This is your community podcast, L2 Hearts, and we'll see you soon. All right, here we are. I am trying to do what you taught me. You're a good teacher. This has nothing to do with you, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But